Hi, everybody. This is Emily. I'm a published author, a literary consultant, and a college English instructor. And I'm here to tell you 5 things I've learned since 2011, writing and publishing 6 novels, not including the 2 or 3 in progress that I've been working on refining and refining for years, not to mention the dozens of novels I have edited for college students and often hundreds that I've critiqued for emerging fiction authors. I'm going to tell you 5 things I learned. These are not bright and shiny and sunny things, but if you are serious about making a living, making money, writing fiction, if you want to quit your job, if you want to be a full-time writer, if you want a nice side income to whatever you do, making money on your books, and you're serious about getting noticed as a fiction author and getting your book sold, you will definitely want to listen to this video because I'm going to give you the blatantly honest truth about these 5 things I have learned that if you can get this early on, can save you a lot of time and learning curve and misery, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about that. Make sure I'm still recording because the internet kind of sucks today. All right, so what's the first thing I've learned? The first thing I have learned, number one, being a career fiction author and working with clients and students who are writing and publishing fiction, is that you are not as good as you think you are. Believe me, we are never as good as we think we are. If it's your first book, your third book, your second book, believe me, your book you think is the most magical, amazing thing in the universe. You have an emotional connection to your characters. You have a lot of pride and emotion, excitement, and elevated feelings about your book. The way you see and feel about your book will not match the way the world sees your book. That is the first thing you need to understand. You may think your book is fantastic because you put in months, maybe years, creating this first draft or this 10th draft of this amazing fictional world, and it's like your life, and you see it as the author vividly, alive in your head. And you try to put that into writing for others to see it, but they're not going to see and feel and experience it the way you feel and see it in your head, just from how you got it onto paper. Believe me, you're not as good as you think you are. There is always someone better, and there is always more to learn. No matter how many books you've written, no matter if it's your first, fifth, 10th, doesn't matter if you already have readers. You have to continue building your skills. You have to get better. You have to, especially if you're writing series or multiple books, your books will become stagnant if they're all sort of the same. You need to keep evolving as a writer. There's always more to learn, always ways to refine your writing, always ways to correct in each book, each new book, not do things you did in the previous books, to refine and revise and improve and develop your skills as you build and grow your career. So believe me, no matter how good you think your book is, it needs to be better. That's the first thing I have learned. Believe me, the hard way. The first book I put out there in 2011, like, oh my God, I can't even, like, the rest of the things I've learned, about to tell you in this video, all stem back to my first book. I thought my book was the shit. It was like, this story had been alive in my head for years. I spent 2 years writing it. I was writing that book when my mom was dying even. And sadly, I got the first draft published right before she died. She never had a chance to read my first book, but I had no clue what the hell I was doing. And I never taken a writing class. It just flowed out of me. I was a prolific writer. I wrote like a 700-page novel, a crime drama novel. And I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't even have my master's in professional writing yet. And I released the book to the world, and boy, was I in for a surprise, you guys. I can't tell you how much stuff I learned. All right, still recording? Yes, I am. Okay, so the second thing I have learned, this is so pertinently important. When you think you have your final draft, go back and do it again. I don't care how perfect you think your book is, ready to go to the proofreader or the final editor, do it again. So we know that, like, we get down our first draft, or some of us are linear writers, we write from beginning to end, or like if some of my books I wrote in bits and pieces and I patched them together like a puzzle because I would just write depending on what scene inspired me at the time, and then I'd have to put them all together and make them flow. Um, but you know the difference, right? You know, like you have your manuscript and it's done, but you know you need to go back and edit some more, proofread. You know you need to add a few things here, or maybe there's a missing chapter there, or there's something you forgot to delete here. You know when you're constantly still revising and working on it, even when you have your like a first draft of your chapters. That's normal. But when you really think you're done, you have your first draft done and it's ready to go, that's more important when you need to go back and do it again. And here's what I do. When I am like, oh, I'm totally done, this draft is ready to go, I've learned this the hard way. And this is after revising and editing, revising, rewriting for a long time. I set it aside for a couple of weeks. Don't think about it. Go do something else. Go about my life. Then I send my manuscript from my computer to my iPad Pro, and I go to and email it to myself. I open it on my iPad Pro and open it in like a PDF reader, and I start reading it after not looking at it for several weeks, like I'm reading a book, like not looking at it from the eyes of an editor, looking at it on my screen on my Word document, looking at it in a reader on a tablet, because it does something different to your brain. And you're more likely to see things that you didn't see before when you're in editing mode. You're just reading your final product after you haven't thought about it in a while. I can tell you, it has blown my mind. Every time I thought I had a final draft, I wait a few weeks, I go and I read it slowly, a couple chapters a day. Every chapter I find things wrong. I find a typo I missed. I find something that doesn't make sense. I find I was too wordy here. So what I do is I have my phone here, right? I have my tablet here where I'm reading, slowly like a reader, just chilling, sitting on the couch reading it. If I find something wrong or that needs to be fixed, I'll go onto a note on my phone, like a yellow note, and I'll say, page chapter 1, page so and so. I'll write down the line, and I'll keep a whole log of things I want to fix. As I read the whole book over like a few days or a week on my tablet, then when I'm done reading it, I have a whole log of things to change. I go back into my computer to the document and then I fix them again. So when you think you have your final draft, believe me, you don't. Okay. Next thing I've learned, point blank, is, well, let's see, which one is more important? Next thing I've learned, oh yeah, well, that one's not that important. Okay. Next thing I've really learned, you guys, really learned, even your editor needs an editor. When you think you have your final draft, go back and fix it again. When you really think you have your final draft and you fixed it again, and you're going to then send it to like a copy editor, someone who's going to fix the final typos and grammars and all that, that editor will go in and read the book and make notes and fix all your stuff. Hopefully use Microsoft Track Changes, give you a final copy. That editor is a human being. That editor might be looking at 4, 5, 6, 700 pages, 150 to 300,000 words. People naturally will make mistakes and miss things. Your editor still needs an editor. So what you'll need to do is then you need to take that draft after your editor gives you a final draft and give it to a proofreader, someone completely different. Guarantee you that proofreader will find something your editor missed. Even in the process of your editor fixing something, an accidental key can be hit and make a typo. Okay, so even your editor needs an editor. Editors are human beings. Even Microsoft Word needs a human. Microsoft can do spell check and all that. It's not a human. It can't understand context. You need a series of editorial progressive steps, I guess you could say. Okay. And this is one thing I was going to tell you about my first book. My first book, when I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I had already been, worked on a magazine, and I had my bachelor's degree. I had my first master's degree in education, adult education at the time. I didn't have my second master's in English professional writing yet when I wrote my first book. I'd never taken a single formal class on writing fiction, ever. But I was apparently born a prolific writer. I had the story in my head for years and I just pumped it all out, 700 pages, and it was like amazing. And I thought I edited it and fixed it, but I didn't. I didn't know anything about how to structure dialogue, how to use tags, how to use beats, what should be in there, what shouldn't be in there, what sells, what doesn't sell. I just wrote it like it's cool, you know. And then I sent it to an editor who I spent $3,000 to have it fixed and fix up all the errors, a copy editor. And then I released the book, and word got out there real fast that this book was full of errors. She missed so many things, and the longer your book is, the more things will be missed. It was a humiliation. It took me years to recover from that, you guys. It gave me so much anxiety that I took an extra year or two to release each additional book, just from editing and revising and editing and revising and proofreading. Like, I can write a whole 700-page book in 3 months. I'll spend 2 years fixing it and editing it, you guys, because of that. It is your image as a writer will depend on the quality of your writing, and errors diminish your reputation. Sad but true. Sad but true. One error, maybe some, not so much, but even then it's noticeable. People who read books a lot. They will notice and catch your errors, you guys. So really remember, your editor needs an editor. Okay. And the fourth thing I have learned is you can't go about this alone, you guys. Even if it's your second or third book, and I don't mean your editor or your proofreader. What I mean is you need to learn how to write. There are people in these Facebook groups that say the secret to writing is just to write. No, anyone can write. That doesn't mean it's good writing. That doesn't mean it's writing that agents or publishers want. That doesn't mean writing that's ever going to sell a single book. That doesn't mean writing that's not going to get you terrible reviews from people who do buy your book. That's not going to be necessarily writing that people are going to want to buy your second book, you guys. Writing is, it's not about having a story in your head, even knowing your plot and putting it on paper. Writing is a technique. There are so many, dozens, if not 100 techniques you need to do when formatting your plot, putting it on paper. A lot of that comes in the revision process, but there are techniques, there are skills, there are particular ways to do things to make your book, your story, feel real to people. To make it flow, there's everything from how to use beats, how to use tags, how to use dialogue, character development, overuse of words, underuse of words, body language, action, setting, how to tie them all together, on and on. It's, you guys, it's, if you don't have a formal education in writing, creative writing, or fiction, like a degree, you need either a writing coach, a mentorship, a group. And I don't mean friends and family. I mean people who are professionals with writing. For years, as a freelance fiction editor, I did manuscript critiques. I made them affordable. I didn't do copy editing because I did enough of that on my own work. And for my college students, I didn't want to do that in my side hustle. But I would do manuscript critiques. They're affordable, maybe $600, $800. You have a professional, someone like me, for example, read your entire book and make commentary along the side margins and redlining things that don't make sense, that shouldn't be there, comments about what you should put there, pointing out different ways you can change this to have a different effect, talking about why a reader won't want to see this, why a reader will want to see this, how to make this go smoother or faster, how to, if I start feeling bored as a reader, if I start losing interest, if I start being confused, your reader will be. I'll make those comments. A manuscript critique, you get all those commentary notations in there, and then you can go back and fix it. That's something you do way before you send it to a copy editor. That's one way you can do it. You can also join a membership site. I am, you guys, building a membership site that will be for emerging fiction authors or established fiction authors who are maybe indie authors and want to continue to experience growth in the development of their craft. And I'll have monthly education presentations, PowerPoints, cheat sheets, worksheets, videos like this, teaching you new skills every month to either apply to your new books or to fix your currently existing drafts, to improve them, to help you get seen and sold, you guys. And I'll have a safe, controlled forum for sharing snippets of your work with other members and exchanging work to give peer critique, by other writers in an environment that isn't like out in the open in the public, like on somewhere on Facebook. This will be a very affordable membership, but it will be something where everybody that goes into the membership will sign a copyright waiver, agreeing not to steal or plagiarize anybody's work, on and on. So it's going to be a great way to develop your writing and prepare for publication. And if you don't want to do that, you guys, you can get a critique editor, a developmental editor, take a couple of classes, then invest in a good program. I'm not saying you need to go get your bachelor's in creative writing, but if you really want to be a fiction author that makes money, there's a lot to learn and you just can't go at it alone. This is what I've learned. And lastly, you guys, this is like, I'm saving this for last, which ironically, because it's probably the most important thing once you do have a published book, a book that's ready to go, or a book to pre-sell. This is gold. This is key. This is so important, you guys. Your cover art will make or break your book. Cover art is the thing that will establish you as a writer or tank you as a writer. Cover art will be the thing that will get you sold to an agent or publisher or denied. Your cover art is everything. It's everything. A cover art can, like a fantastic cover can sell the crappiest book. The most brilliant, amazing book in the universe will go unnoticed and ignored with a terrible cover. I mean, how many times have you gone to Browse and Borders or Barnes and Noble, and you're looking at the new releases, the bestsellers, you pick up a book because of the cover. You don't even notice maybe the name. I don't know, maybe if you're like a James Patterson fan, you might look for his latest book. But if you're just seeing what's new, you pick up books that appeal to you by the cover. That's what makes you pick it up and flip it over and read the back. And even more important with this digital world, with selling your books on Amazon, you guys, I don't know about you, but maybe it's because I'm a professional, maybe because I've published many books, maybe because I've worked with people on publishing their books. I can tell the difference like that. Scrolling through Amazon, like if I go to romance novels, erotica, top 100, just scrolling through the results, the tiny thumbnails, I can tell you which books are self-published, which covers were done by people who did it themselves, and which were traditionally professionally published just by the cover. It is blatantly obvious once you like understand the difference. I'm not saying you can't have a great book with a crappy cover, but you're much less likely to sell it, much less likely to sell it. So what I'm going to tell you right now is do not attempt to do the cover yourself, you guys. Just don't do it. Don't do it. I don't care if you think you're creative and crafty and you can go to any of these softwares and platforms, design your own book cover using Canva, or design your own book cover on design your own cover platform, whatever. That's like a type of an InDesign or a Photoshop. Just don't do it. You need a professional cover artist designer who has a history of creating covers for books that have been bestsellers on Amazon or in bookstores, and who understands the current market and industry standards. So one way to do this, go to Barnes & Noble, whatever bookstore you have, start perusing the new release tables, the bestsellers, the hot hits tables. Look at some different covers of what's being put in bookstores, mostly by traditional publishers. Look at that kind of cover art, you guys. Then go home and go on Amazon and go to your crime drama, or go to your romance, or go to your fantasy. Look at your ebooks, your Kindle books. Look at the covers, you start seeing the thumbnails. You can see the difference in a second. Who did the covers themselves? Who just published their book from home? Who was a novice? And which books are even self-published versus traditionally published? Because traditional publishing houses have very strict professional standards for cover art, you guys. The highest end, those are the ones you might see probably on the new release or the bestseller or the Barnes & Noble tables. So you want your book, self-published or not, to look like that. If you want to sell a lot of books, you need to have a cover that makes people think when they're scrolling through online, your book was traditionally published. Most people don't click open a book on Amazon, scroll down and see who the publisher is, Random House, Penguin House, or self-published, or Lightning Source. Most people rarely buy a book because of the publisher. I have hundreds of books on my shelf. I have no clue who published them. Honestly, I've read thousands of books in my days. I bought thousands of books in my days. I have never once looked to see who the publisher is. But I can tell you a crappy cover in person or online makes me think this book is crap. This book is shit. This book was written by a novice, so the writing must suck too. And I've not bought books because of the cover, or I've bought books because of the cover. Same with buying books online. A cover has to like draw you in like a movie trailer. It has to give you a glimpse of the world that will be in that book. You don't just want a person, a hero, heroine with a solid background with a person looking like a warrior. You want to show a whole scene. You just don't want two chunky, not chunky, hunky guy without a shirt and some babe like all sultry in an erotic novel, and that's all. You want to show a little more than that. Here's what you need to do. Save your money for a cover. I'd say you can get a really good professional industry standard cover done for $200 to $400, $500 maybe. There are two ways you can do this, you guys. The first way is there are websites where you can buy pre-made industry standard developed book covers based on the genre. And I can link a few of those below. I can't think of them right now. It's been a few years. I've used a couple of those before. I've had clients that have used them, but they are professional cover artists that make like this database of one-of-a-kind book covers based on genre. You can click sci-fi, romance, fantasy, whatever. And you'll see like a pre-designed book cover with its own words and layout and a fake name. You can buy it, and you can. It depends on the company. They'll send you the file, and you open it, and you can just type your own name and title over the words and export it and give it to your book formatter, or you buy it and you send you fill out a form telling them what name and stuff to put on it, and they'll put it in for you and send you the final. That's a very affordable way to do it. Or you can hire a book cover graphic designer who does this professionally, who has hundreds of examples you can look at, who has a history of book covers for books that are selling really well, and who know how to design book covers by industry standard, what publishers want for traditional selling in a bookstore. So that's how you want to get your cover, you guys. Don't do it yourself. Don't think just don't do it. There's not even anything to talk about. Just don't do it. It doesn't matter. Like, unless you've designed book covers yourself and sold them and that's your skill, just don't do it. Because what you think is good is not what everyone else is going to think is good. So I would go to a bookstore, look at books in your genre that are new on the shelves. Look at what those covers all look like, what they have in common. Try to identify the features. Then go out there and find a designer or pre-made covers ready to go that look like that style. Okay, you guys, thanks for watching. Hit the bell, subscribe to my channel if you want more instruction on how to develop your writing to make money and make a living as a professional fiction author. Thanks for watching.